Today I'm going to be redoing my sourdough video, how to make sourdough with a Dutch oven, or at least how I make sourdough. No idea if it's the proper way, if I'm doing things properly or not. So today I'm going to be redoing my sourdough video like I just said. First thing I have done is I just took my starter out of the fridge and I discarded about half of my sourdough starter, and now it's time for me to feed it. This elastic here is not an accurate representation of how much sourdough starter I have. Some of my sourdough starter is still a little bit hoochy, so I'm just getting rid of anything that might have some hooch on it. Here is the little bit of sourdough starter that I'm going to be working with. Apparently I only have about 15 grams of starter in here, so I'm gonna feed it pretty well, probably about 100 grams of water and 100 grams of flour. What I find works best for making sourdough and feeding my starter is using hardened, unbleached bread flour. I just get it from the bulk barn. You can use all-purpose flour, but bread flour has more protein in it, so it helps the starter and the bread itself rise better. Honestly, I think right now my flour is just like a mix. I'm gonna start by adding 100 grams of warm water just from my tap. When it comes to feeding your sourdough starter, like I said, bread flour works best for the growth and the protein aspect of it. I've seen people use filtered water, unfiltered water. It really depends on your sourdough starter. What works for me is tap water. So I'm gonna be doing 100 grams or 100 milliliters of room temperature, warmish tap water. Okay, that's 102, which is fine. Probably could have switched it over to a cleaner jar, but whatever. And now I'm gonna match it with 102-ish grams of bread flour. The point of these videos is, like, even if I am chaotic, if a chaotic mess like me can figure out how to do like this kind of stuff, the average person should be able to figure it out as well. So I have 103 grams here of flour. 103 grams is fine because if there is bread flour in it, bread flour absorbs water a lot better, so it's whatever. And just mix it all in to a nice pancake batter consistency. Probably don't need that anymore. I know my jar is fairly dirty and it's hard to see, but just trust me, I'll show you in a second. I also like to use a plastic or wooden chopstick for this part as well. I just happened to get my spoon out for today for some reason. And I always like to scrape down the sides too. So I'll show you that in a second when this has been cleaned up a bit. As you can see, the consistency of it is like a nice, if you were gonna make some thick, fluffy pancakes kind of consistency. Like that. That's the consistency that I personally like to put it at. Clean down the sides so we can watch growth. Now that I have it fed, I'm gonna take my elastic and put this at the line, the level of where it is right now. Sourdough lid, this is the one I have. You probably didn't need to stab it like I did, but that's how I ended up doing it. And I'm gonna set it just a little bit off center. As you can see, my sourdough starter has now at least doubled. It's got some nice bubbles here up at the top, and I think it's at its peak. So now what I'm gonna do is start working on the dough recipe, I guess. Typically what I would do is mix the starter and the water and then add the flour and the salt. But I recently watched a video where this woman who makes sourdough bread all the time was mixing the water and the flour first and then adding the salt and the starter after. So I'm gonna try that and see if there's any difference. Once again with my scale. Into my bowl, I'm gonna measure out 500 grams of flour. I'm gonna use my tap water again. You use whatever water works best for you. And I'm gonna do warm. Okay, that's 350.08, which is fine. Now, I don't know if the order of how you put things together really matters, but apparently mixing the dough and the water first creates an autolysis or an autolyse. I don't really know what that means, but I think it's basically breaking down the flour a bit in the water. I'm not so sure, but I'm doing what I'm told, or what the woman who literally her channel is all sourdough, and if anybody knows it, it's probably that woman. I will see if I can find her channel. I really don't remember. It's not somebody that I watch all the time. It just kind of like showed up on my For You page. She was making 3 different shapes of sourdough flour using the same dough recipe. Now while this sits for a minute, I'm gonna portion out 100 grams of my starter. This is what it looks like right now. It's very shaggy. It's literally just water and flour. Going for 100. Okay, that's 100.05 or 100.5, so that's perfect right there. And then this can honestly go back in the fridge with its lid on, slightly off. And last thing I'm gonna do is measure out 10 grams of salt. Okay, that's 10.4. I'm just gonna mix my sourdough 100 gram starter into my flour and my water mixture here. Usually I don't measure them separately. Usually I just do it all in the bowl at the same time, but I feel like being very accurate just in case. And then I'm gonna mix the sourdough starter into this dough. Like I said earlier, if I can do it, literally anybody else in the world can. This is what my dough looks like right now. I'm gonna leave this to rest on the counter for an hour, but I do have these clear shower caps. A lot of people use these. You can use saran wrap if you want, but it gets to be a big pain in the ass, so if you have the funds, I believe this pack was $125, and I reuse them sometimes. I just rinse them out. I'm gonna use a new one for this, and all you do is cover it up, and then we're gonna let it rest for an hour. And then I'll be back when it's time to do our first stretch and folds. This is what it looks like when I'm letting it rest here after I just mixed it. Actually, yeah, so perfect. Cover it with your shower cap, go watch something for an hour, and then come back to it. Okay, so, sorry, it's been about an hour, so I'm gonna show you how to do stretch and folds, and then you're gonna do it in another 30 minutes, so that's 2, and then twice more after that. So it's gonna take you 2 hours total, I think? No. Anyways, first you wanna get your hands wet, and you're gonna grab your dough. I like to use my scraper to get anything from the sides incorporated into first, actually. You're gonna grab the dough, and you're gonna stretch it, and fold it. Mine's really wet for some reason, so stretch and then fold it. Stretch it and fold it. It's very soft. And then stretch it and fold it. And then just put it back down and let it rest for another 30 minutes. Cover it back up. And then stretch and fold 4 more times in 30 minutes. So I let my dough sit on the counter for about 8 hours to proof. And then I got up this morning around 6 a.m. and quickly just put it in the fridge. Next step is I'm going to stretch it out into a large rectangle and then fold it in thirds in towards itself so that I can roll it into a nice ball. And then apparently you leave it like this for a little bit so it forms a skin, and then it's easier to tighten it when it has a little skin on it. So I'm gonna leave it for like 15 minutes. Okay, it should be less sticky now. That has a little bit of a skin on it. Now I'm gonna put this in my bowl to bulk ferment for a little bit. Just like this. I'm gonna leave it for a couple hours probably, and then later I will bake it. I'm just gonna dust some flour on it so it doesn't stick too badly to my bowl. And I'm gonna put this in the fridge and go read my book. I decided I'm gonna take this out and let it bulk ferment on the counter just until the dough in here doubles. Here's what it looks like right now. It's probably grown like, I don't know, 5%. I'm gonna let it double on the counter, and then I'll score it later and preheat my Dutch oven in a bit. It looks like it's doubled in my opinion, so I'm gonna put my Dutch oven in the oven at 475 and let it preheat, and then I'll score my dough. Looks pretty good in my opinion. Oh, it's nice and jiggly. Gorgeous. Beauty. Just tighten it up a little bit. Put some more flour on it. That's so cute. And do one deep score just across here. Probably like a 1/4 of an inch. I don't know what that means. Maybe like 1/2 centimeter. I don't know. And that's so that it can expand while it's in there, and then my decorative one doesn't need to go as deep, I don't think. That's good enough for me, but it's okay. It'll still turn into bread, which is the main part. Okay, my Dutch oven's been heating up for I think about 1/2 an hour now. Take this off. I just covered it so that this doesn't get hard or whatever, I don't know. I like to put some ice cubes in there too, just to help steam it a bit. So I'm just getting these ready so that I can act quickly. So I'm gonna put my ice cubes in. And then I'm gonna trim my paper a little bit. Cover it back up, and I'm gonna put it in the oven for 30 minutes covered at 475. And then I'll come back in 30 minutes and take the lid off. First 1/2 hour bake is done, so hopefully the breads rise nicely. This is gonna be the first moment of truth. I'm gonna take the lid off and then bake a nice crust for like 10-15 minutes. I'm gonna turn the heat down to 425 because I always forget. And let's see. Do you smell bread?
Yeah, that's why I came out.
It's not ready yet. Wow. Okay, and we build a crust. It didn't raise as much as I wanted it to, but it's still bread. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes and our crust has gotten nice and dark. Yum! And now it's time to take the Dutch oven out and take the bread out of the Dutch oven so it stops cooking. And then if you do have a bread sling, this is where it would probably come in handy, but I just carefully get it out. Oh wow. Didn't get all the rise that I wanted, but it is still bread and it does look pretty nice. And we let it cool for 3 hours. Too many people cut it when it's still cooling. But there we go. I'll show you later when we cut it open. Moment of truth, we're gonna cut the bread in half and see. It doesn't look like it did a great rise like I was fearful of, but I'm scared. I don't think it's, I don't know. And it's okay. It's a little bit dense, but it looks good actually. Oh, it smells delicious. Beautiful. And then people do a squish test. It's okay. It's nice. It's still got some air in there. I think I could have fermented it or proofed it a little bit longer, but I'm still gonna eat it.
Wanna try a bite?
Yeah. Very good.